My name is Amara Vance, and the man who tried to humiliate me in open court had no idea he was standing at the edge of his own downfall. You're a stain on this court, and frankly, a burden to the taxpayers. Judge Preston Whitaker didn't just say it. He savored it. His gavel hovered in the air like an executioner's blade, ready to fall. From where he sat, high above everyone else, wrapped in those heavy black robes, he believed he was the law.
And me?
I stood there in a simple charcoal blazer, hands steady, posture straight, my hair pulled back into a clean, professional bun. No designer labels. No dramatic entrance. No team behind me. Just a woman he thought he could silence. To him, I was just another legal aid attorney wasting his precious time. What he didn't know, I wasn't just any attorney. I was the newly elected president of the State Bar Association, and the woman responsible for overseeing judicial conduct across this state. But I didn't correct him. Not yet. The air inside courtroom 4B was thick. Floor polish, old paper, stale coffee. A Tuesday morning. The kind of day where justice usually moves slowly, quietly. Unless someone like Whitaker decides to make it personal. At the defense table sat my client, Cassie Reed. A young single mother. Terrified. Her fingers trembled as she clutched her file. Facing eviction. Unfairly. Illegally. And completely at the mercy of a man who had already decided her fate before we even spoke. Miss, whatever your name is, Whitaker barked, flipping through nothing, barely looking at the file. This motion is frivolous. Your client hasn't paid rent in 3 months. The law is clear. Why are you wasting my time? I stepped forward. My name is Amara Vance, Your Honor.
Calm.
Controlled. Unshaken. And if you review Exhibit B, you'll see the landlord refused to accept emergency rental assistance payments. Under current statutes, eviction cannot proceed while assistance is pending. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't need to. Whitaker leaned forward, eyes narrowing. I don't need a lecture from a community advocate, he snapped. I've been on this bench for 20 years. If Mr. Gregory Plimpton says the checks didn't arrive, then they didn't arrive. There it was. Bias. Not even hidden. With respect, Your Honor, I replied evenly. The law is not based on reputation. It is based on record. And I have certified documentation.
Bang.
The gavel slammed down like a gunshot. I didn't give you the floor to argue, he snapped. I gave you the floor to hear my ruling. Cassie flinched beside me. I didn't. The motion is denied. Eviction stands. 48 hours. A soft, broken sob escaped from Cassie. I placed my hand gently over hers, grounding her. But my eyes never left him. When I spoke again, my voice changed. Lower. Sharper. Your Honor, that ruling directly contradicts the state Supreme Court precedent. You are committing reversible error. The room shifted. People felt it. Whitaker's face darkened. No one challenged him. No one ever challenged him. You want to talk about the Supreme Court? He hissed. How about we talk about your behavior? You are out of line. Then he leaned forward and crossed a line he couldn't come back from. I don't think you have the intellectual capacity to understand the nuances of this court. Silence. Heavy. Uncomfortable. Dangerous. I let it sit for a second. Not reacting. Not flinching. Because moments like this, they don't need emotion. They need precision. I am asking for the law to be followed, I said quietly. If that is considered disrespectful, then perhaps the issue isn't my conduct. I paused. It's your temperament. His knuckles turned white around the gavel. That's it, he snapped. I find you in contempt of court. $5,000. Payable immediately. Gasps echoed through the gallery. And if you say one more word, he added coldly. You'll spend the night in a holding cell. I didn't argue, didn't protest, didn't react. Instead, I slowly opened my leather portfolio, reached inside, and pulled out a small, gold-embossed card. I'll pay the fine, Your Honor, I said. Composed, almost amused. But I suggest you keep the receipt. I looked him dead in the eyes. You're going to need it. He laughed. Loud. Dismissive. The commission? He mocked. I am the commission in this town. I didn't respond to him. Instead, I turned slightly toward the court reporter. Make sure every word is recorded, I said, especially the part about my intellectual capacity. Then I added, I'll need that transcript by 2 p.m. Her hands froze over the keyboard. Of course. President Vance. Silence. Total. Crushing silence. Behind me, I felt it. The shift. The realization. Whitaker's voice came out quieter now. Unsteady. What did you just call her? But I didn't answer. I didn't need to. I turned my back on him, placed a reassuring hand on Cassie's shoulder, and walked out of that courtroom without looking back. Because I already knew, the moment he tried to break me was the exact moment he broke himself. The heavy oak doors slammed behind me as I stepped into the hallway. Cassie's breathing was uneven beside me. Miss Vance, what just happened? She whispered. I didn't slow down. It's not over, I said calmly. It's just beginning. The panic begins. Back inside his chambers. I didn't need to see it to know what was happening. Men like Preston Whitaker don't handle loss well. Especially not public loss. Especially not to someone they underestimated. By the time I reached the courthouse lobby, my phone buzzed. 3 messages. 2 missed calls. And 1 confirmation I had been waiting for. The transcript request had already been flagged as priority. Good. I walked straight to the clerk's window. The woman behind the glass, Brenda, looked like she'd seen a ghost. Miss President Vance, she corrected herself quickly. I'm here to pay the fine, I said. Her eyes widened. The judge's office just called. They said it was a mistake. No, I cut in gently. The order was given in open court. I leaned slightly closer. And I never violate the law. I nodded toward the man standing behind me. He stepped forward and placed a heavy metal briefcase on the counter. The latch clicked open. Coins. Thousands of them. Nickels. Dimes. Pennies. $5,000. In the most inconvenient form possible. It's all there, I said. Legal tender. The lobby went silent. And then, flash. A camera. I turned. Of course. Lydia Grant. Lead investigative reporter. She smiled slightly. She knew exactly what she was looking at. Miss Vance, she called out. Any comment on what just happened in that courtroom? I held her gaze, then spoke clearly. I'm not concerned about what was said to me. I paused. I'm concerned about what happens to people who don't have the power to push back. The room listened. Every word. If this is how a judge treats someone he thinks is powerless. I continued. Then what happens to the people who actually are? Silence. Heavy. Unavoidable. This isn't about a fine, I said. This is about accountability. My phone buzzed again. I glanced down and smiled. It's already moving, I said softly, then looked back at Lydia. You might want to check the appellate docket. Within minutes, everything started to unravel. I had already filed an emergency writ A judicial misconduct complaint and a review request on every eviction he had signed in the last 6 months. By the time Whitaker looked out his window, it was too late. Reporters had gathered. Whispers had spread. And the system he thought he controlled was turning on him. By afternoon, his allies started disappearing. His phone stopped ringing, except for one call. The landlord, Gregory Plimpton, panicked, angry, desperate. And that's when the first crack broke open. Because corruption? It doesn't stay buried. It waits for pressure. And I had just applied all of it.by evening. The order came down. Immediate suspension. Full investigation. Financial review. The same man who had fined me $5,000 was now being escorted out of his own courthouse. And as he passed through the side exit, he saw me, standing beside Cassie. She wasn't crying anymore. I handed her a set of keys. A new place, I told her softly. Safe. Legal. Covered. Her hands shook, but this time, not from fear. Whitaker stared, speechless. I didn't smile, didn't gloat. I just met his eyes, then turned away, because this was never about revenge. It was about restoring balance. What followed wasn't quick. It was precise, relentless. Records, ledgers, transactions, and then the truth. Bribes, case manipulation, illegal evictions. Names started falling, one by one. Judges resigned. Officials stepped down. Businesses collapsed. Everything tied back to one thing. A man who thought power made him untouchable. The courtroom was packed on sentencing day, not with fear, but with witnesses. People he had stepped on, ignored, destroyed, and for the first time, he wasn't the one in control. When my turn came, I stood, not as a president, not as a title, but as a voice. The law only works, I said, because people believe in it. I looked directly at him. You didn't just break rules. You broke trust. Silence filled the room. Then the judge spoke. Sentence delivered. Years. Assets seized. Legacy erased. And just like that, it was over. Outside the courthouse, the sun felt different, lighter. A reporter asked me, was it worth it for a $5,000 fine? I smiled. Not the kind people expect. Not victory. Something deeper. It was never about the money, I said. It was about proving that power doesn't decide justice. I paused, then added, people do. I walked down those steps, past the cameras, past the noise, and into a future where one thing was clear. The moment he tried to make me feel small was the moment he lost everything.